Before I proceed any further, I crave leave to keep a moment of silence in remembrance of the victims, especially the victims of grave and treacherous violence, victims who lost their lives, leaving their loved ones behind. So with your kind permission, just for a brief moment, I keep a moment of silence. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. These words were spoken by David, also called Daud in Hebrew, most probably before he faced the giant Goliath, as some people may prefer to address this giant, who is supposed to have 6 fingers, almost twice the size of King David, later, at that moment, the shepherd boy David. David faced Goliath. We face giants. And the people of Hiroshima, or Hiroshima as some people may like to call it, faced a dreadful day on this very 6th day of the 8th month, or August, of the Gregorian year 1945. It was a single bomb called atom bomb or nuclear bomb, which killed some 200,000 people of that city and in its vicinity. The dreadful moments continued at least for 3 days until the 9th of August 1945. The days were not merely dreadful, not merely horrific, but horrendous. Not merely for that particular generation or the particular inhabitants of that place, but even their children and grandchildren, begotten and born, had grave deficiencies in their physical forms and mental health. But this was not the only and the sole incident which should raise shivers on the mind of any reasonable person. Because wars continue even today, killing, crippling, handicapping individuals, graving deep scars upon the minds of their kin, and most certainly upon the minds of the victims who survive such dreadful, fearful, grave and grievous incidents. The people of the imperial or the Empire of Japan kept a moment of silence this morning, pondering those moments of their suffering. We may need to keep silence too, but not longer than a moment, because unless and until we speak out, speak up, and speak out time and time again, even relentlessly, injustice occurrences are likely to follow. Not because we ourselves are to be blamed. Inactive performance, but because we tolerate such grave, unjust, unfair acts of others. According to the Torah, the Holy Bible, befitting my personal belief and faith, we are supposed to be the supreme of all creatures, yet our supremacy is often abused by our very selves. We as human beings can claim this special status of being the supreme of all creatures, if, but only if, we also follow and walk upon the true path of humanity, because it is humanity which makes us human beings worthy of our human births. If we fail to act humanely, we disclaim de facto the very status of being human beings. We fall onto the same trap which was once upon a time so well written by that German scholar Wolfgang Amadeus Goethe, who in a dialogue, or I should say in the character of Satan or the devil, speaking with God the Almighty, says, and although I am not a linguist yet, I crave leave to quote briefly that passage. Du hast Menschen gemacht, tierischer als Tier zu sein. You have created human beings to be more beast-like than the beasts themselves, maybe a free translation of that passage. Children continue to die in various parts of the world due to wars and warlike situations, due to famines, due to violence, due to misinterpretation of various parts of news broadcasting, which often inflict people. Since October the 7th of the Gregorian year 2023, some 40,000 people died alone in the Middle East. Thousands of people died, crippled, maimed in the eastern parts of Europe. Not forgetting African countries, including Sudan and various other parts of Africa. People confronted with famine or famine-like situations. They are at the brink of starvation, while we sit comfortably, quite comfortably, in our cozy rooms or chambers, perhaps as I am doing at this very moment. Alas, I endeavour to speak up and speak out, and have been endeavouring to do so for a number of years, but alas, my voice is falling upon deaf ears without appropriate response from my fellow global citizens. Some of the viewers may lift up their thumb, showing they appreciated my message, but far greater would be my appreciation if, but only if, they also spoke out against such grave injustice prevailing over humanity today. The incidents taking place against communities expressing discrimination of a kind or another is totally contrary to humanity. It is shameful, disgraceful, inhumane, even vicious. True heroism does not lie in oppressing or extinguishing or destroying the feeble and the weak. True heroism lies in protection of the same. Unless we are ready to protect the weak, even the feeblest of the feeble, the weakest of the weak, the poorest of the poor, the victims of oppression, injustice, wars, even famine. We disclaim the right of calling ourselves worthy human beings. 79 years have gone by since that catastrophic day on which nuclear bombs were dropped in Hiroshima, killing, as I already mentioned, more or less 200,000 individuals, while maiming numerous individuals and affecting generations to come. Yet I begin to query how little we have learned during these 79 years. How little we have observed in reality. We are often driven by folly, believing the true victory lies in destroying the weakest of the weak, the feeblest of the feeble. Yet we forget that we follow below the standard set by humanity, unless we change our attitude and walk upon the true paths of humanity, befitting our human birds. This is my errand of this very night, a night crossing from the 6th into the 7th of August of the current Gregorian year 2024. I, with all due respect and regards, crave leave to raise the very question how much we truly have learned since that dreadful day of bombing of Nagasaki, or I should say even Hiroshima, on 6th August 1944, continuing the dreadful time until the 9th of August 1945, and continuing thereafter as the results continued and continue even today. True be it that bombing compelled the imperial government of Japan to surrender and set its alliance in dreadful fear, and discouraged wars for a number of years. Yet it did not discourage people long enough to begin wars upon wars, and perhaps we shall find ourselves confronted with a third world war in the near future, unless we truly wake up and recognize the obvious danger of another atomic or nuclear war. I crave leave to bid all of you, dear and most respected viewers of this live telecasting of mine, and those who be kind enough to watch the recording of the same at their convenience. Yet, while begging you for your kind understanding most humbly, I also bid you the protection of the same Almighty who created all of us, even the victims of 6th of August 1945, and all the other victims of war violence, and natural catastrophes and calamities, even famine. Thank you once again, and bid you a solemn night, while I remain at your service and in service of the victims.